Hey everyone, we are once again coming to you from Next Up, hosted by LeagueApps. Really exciting to have an opportunity to speak once again with Jami Lobpries, the CEO and founder of Alliance Fastpitch. Do I have that correct?
CEO, one of the I guess original founders.
We just finished up a panel that we did earlier today, just talking about a lot of the major changes that have happened within just the recruiting side of what youth athletics, high school athletics, and working its way up to the college side of things. And I was just wondering, what have you taken away from today? What is something maybe that you learned that you feel is really important for club directors and anyone who's an athletic advocate and student athletes down the road?
I think one of the main reasons I wanted to come to Next Up in general was to learn from other sports.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun to just be in the room with club volleyball, club soccer, lacrosse. We are talking about recruiting and we're talking about what's going on with NCAA. They're all going through the same issues too. So it's been really interesting just to hear, you're not on an island.
Right.
But also just understanding too where softball is. And I thought we had a great conversation too about where NIL is in women's sports. Yeah. And I would say in softball, right, it's an interesting time period too. So that's, I guess my first thing that I've learned is just how all of us, kind of are suffering as learning together.
Yeah.
And I think when I was listening to the panel, it was amazing because you had an athletic director on there. You had an agent, a lawyer, and I'm just thinking about the youth sport parent and how complex today's recruiting is and how much more knowledge you need besides the things that SportsRecruits Alliance are always talking about. Now, in addition to those, there's like a whole nother world out there that parents have to learn.
Yeah, it really is shocking because I think even just some of the conversations working with student athletes that I have over the last few years, just like the way the conversation of what they need to anticipate and what some of the expectations that they have for what college athletics is have just changed so much. So as you kind of meet with families, as you meet with parents or club directors, like within Alliance, do you get the sense that they feel like they need to be recruited more? Is there more of a hunger to try and play at the next level? Like, I guess the real question that I'm trying to ask is, do you think with all these advancements and changes within the NCAA, has that made it more appealing to try and play at a higher level of softball?
I almost think it's maybe made it more confusing. Yeah. Which is just adding to the initial confusion and questions that parents have. I do think that, there's still a ton of opportunities. I think, maybe it is helping look at, hey, they're cast a wide net, right? Like you guys always talk about, but there's so many opportunities out there. So I guess my first thought is I'm just thinking of all the complexities now that it's adding in the importance that it is for good information. And that's what, I want to do a good job of. I said it on the panel from the Alliance, but we need to work with the right partners to make sure that we're getting all of this information, and because it's constantly changing. Yeah. We need to make sure that we're getting all of that out to our families.
When do you think is the right time to start that recruiting conversation? Because I feel like, at least in my experience working with student athletes, some people know from the moment they start playing that they want to do it for as long as they can, where I've had other people say, well, now I'm a senior in high school and I just realized I don't want to lose this. So what do you think is a fair assessment, at least from an Alliance perspective of, hey, if you're considering playing at the next level, you need to start thinking about it now?
Can I just say not 12 and under, right? Still enjoy the game at that age group. But I do think as you're entering high school, I think those conversations start to get a little bit more serious just to check in. Is this one of my goals? Is this something that I'm striving for? Because it takes the extra work to put into it, not just on the field, but also, the other elements that are going into it. But I was having a conversation too, number one, to get recruited, be good at softball, right? Put in the work and make sure that you are training and don't lose sight of that aspect. Enjoy it as well. I never want the kids to lose that, but I do think that recruiting conversation, probably once you start getting into high school, does get a little bit more serious.
With, I think the other thing that I get a ton of questions about, particularly in softball, is trying to maximize the exposure opportunities, and prospect camps is certainly one that comes up a ton. How much do you provide guidance on, hey, this would make sense for you to go to this camp? Is there a checklist that you would provide for anyone who's considering it? Is there a certain age? From my experience, I typically look at it. If you're a freshman in high school, a prospect camp is going to be more about the experience and the exposure, because you're not going to be at the top of the list of what those coaches are looking at. But from your perspective, whether it be a prospect camp a school is hosting or a recruiting showcase, when do you think is having those conversations and when to kind of pull the trigger on trying to have that additional experience outside of a normal tournament?
I will say that I'm not the expert in that, but what I think is really important is that what our clubs are doing, because they have those closer touch points with their athletes. And so one of the things that we try to do as the Alliance is to learn from each other.
Yeah.
So we can get all these different organizations in a room that they can start talking and sharing best practices of what they're doing and educating their parents, their athletes, their coaches.
Right. I guess on top of that too, I think specifically with softball, you mentioned that it is growing. You're just starting to see just more opportunities open up for a lot of these girls. What do you think is the most exciting part for what softball is going to look like 5 years from now and 10 years from now, whether it be more broadcasting opportunities, these athletes having more of a chance to build brands? What excites you in your role most about what the future will look like this time?
I think number one that's really important for our sport in softball is being back in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And you're seeing just the growth too of obviously USA softball, but international, sustained pro league. I thought the success of Athletes Unlimited softball league was great. And now our girls have more to shoot for, but that pathway, I talk about it all the time of why that's so important in our sport, because college softball is we're on TV.
Yeah.
We're on TV a lot, and those kids have an opportunity in those 4 years to really build their brands, maximize that exposure. You're going to be interviewed. You're going to have a mic in front of you. So take advantage of that. But now there is something afterwards too. And as our kids build their brands in college, that's only helping our pro league.
One of the things that you mentioned earlier, which I found really interesting, is that you almost kind of put your girls through media training to an extent where, like you said, putting the microphone in their face and seeing how they can handle it. Is that something that just kind of happened organically? Was that something that you went out of your way to say, hey, now is the right time to do this because of all these changes? How did that decision come about?
I'll be honest, I've been doing it. I've been in youth sports space now for 10 years, and I think I did it from day one. And a lot of it was because I was an athlete. Right. I was very fortunate. I got to play in 2 Women's College World Series. I had to do post-game press conferences after I won and after I lost. And as softball is on TV more and more, they're going to be on TV more and more, and they have to answer those questions. So I think right away, I just thought it would, number one, be fun. Mm-hmm. And then I think, too, like it is a preparation aspect of it. Yeah. I'll never forget I had a Katie Kistler. She went on, she started graduating. That's how old I am. She played at Florida, and I did an interview with her when she was playing for the Tampa Mustangs organization. Mm-hmm. And I put the microphone. She's like, oh, my goodness. And I was like, wait, aren't you going to University of Florida? Right. She's like, yeah. I'm like, you're going to have a lot of these on a very large stage. So, like, nobody's listening right now. But, no, I just think those elements are super important. Not only the Alliance Fastpitch, but the organizations inside of us. Yeah. We're always thinking about things that we can do to prepare those kids for college. Yeah. And that's, in the classroom, that's in their training, that's in media, that's, in leadership positions. It's our format for the AMCS. All of it is preparing them.
I think that's going to be a great place to end. As you mentioned the academic piece, because ultimately we've been talking about college athletics, and I feel like academics isn't really brought up as much as it should, because ultimately, as much as there is development and growth to have careers within softball, there are going to be a large percentage that probably are going to be doing something outside of athletics or outside of softball altogether. So having to, I guess, stress the importance of that and saying, hey, look, use this as a tool to move on and create a better career for yourself. And it is going to lead to better networking opportunities. And hey, look, athletes are typically going to have a higher placement in jobs because they know that they're able to willing to work in and they have that motivation that maybe someone who didn't play college athletics was. So there's not really a question there, but I guess maybe just kind of give me your take on all of that.
It's the commercial, right, that I always hear. It's like 99% of us are going to go pro in something other than sports. Yeah. And that's obviously very true for softball. So definitely academics is huge. I look back and I was very fortunate in my playing career, but I'm like, oh, wow, like going to Princeton, going to Harvard, going to Stanford and playing a sport, but getting that degree. Right. And my cousin coaches at a Division III school, and I look at just the academics and the quality of academics at some of those Division III. What an incredible opportunity to get your education paid. Obviously, I know D3 is a little bit different, but to get your education paid for while having an outlet of a sport. So, yes, school is super important. I was big on that. I think it's the number one thing that we, need to make sure we have in line and that we're looking at when we're looking for a school that you want to continue your career at, too.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to end up. Jami, is there anything that you want to, I guess, what are you excited about as we kind of move into this next phase of softball, going into these upcoming seasons? What are some of those next big dates for Alliance coming up in the near future that you might want to tell us about?
Yeah, we're in our 6th season, which is crazy. So right now there's a lot of qualifiers that are going on. Yeah. We're doing a lot of things I think we did a really good job with the Alliance at those elite teams, but how do we continue to spread what we're doing to more athletes? Yeah. Because there's a lot of athletes out there that they want to compete, they deserve to get recognized. Yeah. Pooling our resources together. I think that's what I've seen even at this conference is what we've done with the Alliance is super special because we've brought all the clubs together and all that does is benefit the athletes. as well. And to have partners like you guys where we can continue to just pour in resources and education, it has been great. So I think my goal for the Alliance is to continue to offer that to more and more athletes, and just continue to serve the youth sport families that we can. Yeah, growth seems to be certainly a topic of discussion in a lot of these different conversations going on here. So Jami, thanks so much again. We're really looking forward to working with you again at some point in the future, and thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you guys.